Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door, and today I'm talking about the Ten of Swords. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. For monthly hangouts, tarot Q&As, and more, join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, you can check out the Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for the latest event postings. If you're not local to my area, you can join me for a virtual tarot card creation event on Friday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'll give you a list of recommended supplies, we'll meet online, and I'll walk you through the process of creating your own tarot cards. Get the date on your calendar now and be on the lookout for the sign-up page coming soon. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, and more. If you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. If you'd like to work with a therapist that doesn't judge you and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards that I pull on each episode. All right, so we are in season 8 now, where I'm talking all about the Suit of Swords, going through one card each episode. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you should check those out. In season 1, I talked tarot basics. Seasons 2 and 3, I went through all the major arcana cards and an overview of the 4 suits. In season 4, I talked about tarot and pop culture. Season 5, I went through 13 common tarot spreads. Season 6 was for the Suit of Wands. Season 7, the Suit of Pentacles. And now we're in Season 8, where I'm talking all about the Suit of Swords. If you want to hear an episode dedicated to an overview of the Suit of Swords, you can check out episode 37. And today I'm talking about the Ten of Swords. So if you have a tarot deck, go ahead, take it out and rifle through and find your Ten of Swords card. It is a common imagery card, so you might already know what it looks like. So common images or symbols for the card are that often it's like a person, I think, laying down on their stomach, and then they have 10 swords in their back. Right, 10 swords, extreme amount, right? We're sort of at if ace is the beginning of the journey, 10 is the end. If we think about sort of the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell talked about, in the major arcana, we sort of have that as these archetypes that follow through from the beginning of the Fool until the end. But in each suit, there is this sort of micro journey that's going on. And tens are sort of seen as the completion or end of the journey here. So there is sort of like 10 swords in the back, like not a great vibe generally. So I'm looking at some of my cards here. So I do have one of the cards that sort of depicts that image. That's in the Anima Mundi Tarot deck by Megan Weirer-Wenden. It does have a bird with 10 swords in it instead of a person. But in this deck, we sort of have, since swords are associated with the air element, all of the swords images in this deck are often like birds or feathers are related to that. So again, this is sort of imagery related to the other swords cards. We also, it's very interesting, we have this, it's a white bird, we have like a black sky behind it with stars, and then we have almost like the bird is bleeding black ink, which is just kind of interesting, like it looks like pooled on the ground. So again, kind of a death and decay kind of image. In the Desert Illuminations Tarot deck by Lindsay D. Williams, we see like a figure, but instead of us seeing their face, we see like a sugar skull. So if you've ever like seen the Dia de los Muertos celebration skulls, it's sort of this, you're honoring ancestors. It's like right after Halloween. I think it's generally November 2nd. And it is this like honoring of ancestors, and there are these like artistic depictions of skulls that are highly decorated, and I think they're called sugar skulls. Um, and so that is kind of what we see in this card. We see, instead of seeing like a normal human face, we see this person with like hair, like nice curly hair. They have flowers in their hair, but then we see this sort of sugar skull. So it's like a skull, and then it's like painted elaborately, it looks like, with different hearts and designs on it. We also see that they're sort of covered in like a shroud type thing with roses. And then they are holding like 10 swords in their hand, almost in the same way that you would hold like a deck of cards, but like your hand of cards, like if you had 10 cards in your hand that you would fan them out. It's kind of like that. And then we see these sort of stars in the background of the card, and they give it makes me think of like the, I don't know, biblical depiction of stars where they're like, so instead of having the starlight emit like in all directions equally. It's like the top and bottom, and then are the tallest, and then the left and right are middle, and then the other four are sort of in between, like almost like a is like a cross image, but it also has a star in it. That's kind of what it's making me think of as I look at it here. I was gonna see, that's just me looking at the card. I was going to see in the deck description what it says. It says, a skeletal woman holds 10 daggers under a starry sky. The image symbolizes a death or ending that may have been painful, but wound up being a transformational shift in the end. The stars are shining through the darkness of the night, representing perseverance. The card portrays the balance of joy and sadness in a time of grief. Even in your darkest days, there is always a way to find the light. There is a chance for change and renewal of the spirit, a time to evolve and transform. It is a time to dig in deep and feel each emotion you're processing. This card marks the end of the pain and suffering that you've been experiencing. Now you can finally move beyond it. Through these lessons, what are you learning about yourself? What is this card showing you? And take this information and apply it to your life so you can move forward. All right, and then finally, I'm looking at the Goddess of Love Tarot deck by Gabriela Herstick and illustrated by Julia Popescu. And in this image, again, we actually have like a skeleton, but instead of having the head, we have like the rib cage, part of the spine, and then that's sort of it. And then we have 5 swords that are like above it, going from like the hilt on the left side to the sharp point on the right, and then sort of through the rib cage we have some of the other 5 swords. Then we have like 2 ravens or crows like flying at the top of the card. We have maybe like a sun image that's like behind the skeleton. And then again, as in all of the depictions of this suit, we have like a pink sky background with white clouds. So it kind of has that similar energy. Like again, we don't have the literal like piercing of a person with the swords, but we do have this like swords going through a rib cage. It says the Ten of Swords is one of the darkest cards in the deck. It speaks of being pierced and pierced and pierced by pain. It may feel like your heart is shattered into a million pieces, or that destruction is around the corner. Perhaps you're digging yourself into a hole of self-inflicted torture instead of meeting your heartbreak where it is, learning from it, and moving on. Maybe you're holding on to a relationship that's causing mental distress. If you're sacrificing yourself at the altar of someone who doesn't even honor your offering, kindly get the fuck out. Yes, suffering's a part of life, but be sure you're not leaning into emotional masochism. Wake up to the shadowy part of yourself that loves to feel the pain. It says the affirmation for this card says, I breathe through the pain and allow new perspectives and healing to come my way. The journal question associated with this card is, how can I learn from this pain take responsibility for my part in it, and move through it with self-compassion. So again, right, it sort of honors this, like the darkness of the card, right, feeling like pierced by pain. And there's also this sort of responsibility aspect, or, right, sacrificing yourself at the altar of someone who doesn't even honor your offering. Um, this is really making me think about something I was talking about earlier today with a client, of sort of that when it feels like you're giving so much of yourself or you're always there for other people, and then you find yourself like resentful when people don't show up in the same way for you, right? Oftentimes we can really want or ask those people to meet us, right, at that place of like, why can't you be there for me all the time like I am for you? Or why can't you, right, take responsibility in this way? Um, and that can be really like hurtful, right? When we have that and then people aren't able to meet us there. It can allow us to really want to just like shut ourselves off from other people, right? To say like, okay, like I guess I can't rely on you. And also I think, right, there is this place of like, okay, if we're recognizing that other people are not able to show up for you as much as you are for them, like another alternative is that, right, we don't have to show up as much for other people as we have been. Like it doesn't always feel good, right? Especially when we've been taught or really want to show up 100% for other people. But when we're just giving so much and all we're getting out is this like resentment that people are not giving as much as us, right? Really, the only thing we have control over is how much we show up. Right. And again, I'm not saying like don't show up for your friends or people you care about, because they only show up for you. Like that's up to you. But I would just say like take this, right? If we think about that, like this showing up for other people 100% and then they don't ever show up for you that much, like there is this sort of like masochistic part of it, which is what this deck is talking about. That there is this place of like, okay, but if you continue to do that and other people don't ever change their behavior, instead of just walling off from them completely or saying like, oh, I should never ask for help, or oh, I should never expect people to show up for me, like maybe, right, what would it be like if you showed up like 90% for other people, or even like 1%? And like, how does that feel, right? If you do it and it feels terrible and you hate it and you don't want to do that, then like, by all means, you don't have to. You don't have to continue to do that. But I would just be very curious about like how that feels, because I think sometimes when we're giving so much of ourselves, right, and no one's giving back to us, like if no one's gonna meet us in that place or meet our needs, like maybe we have to do that ourselves. And if we're gonna meet our own needs and be there for ourselves, like we don't have the bandwidth as much to do it for all these other people. And I think like there's something that's okay about that. Like again, I don't think that that is like what a lot of society or mainstream media tells us, especially in like a lot of movie media about relationships, right? It's like, oh, you should show up for them for no matter what and all this stuff. But then it's so disappointing when over and over, right, other people don't show up for us in that way. And I would just, yeah, run an experiment. You can set a certain amount of time, but what is it like? How does it feel if you, right, show up for yourself first? And then, right, with your extra energy or bandwidth, you can show up for other people, and see kind of like what's available in that space. See if you're still resentful of other people, or if like what it feels like to, again, like kind of meet your own needs first. Um, and I think a lot of us that we're socialized as women or female, like that feels really bad because we were told we weren't allowed to do that. I know I'm sort of going on like a rant, rave right now, but before I even get into more about the card, but this is what's really just kind of coming up for me right now is that, right, thinking of like the pain of having 10 swords in your back, right? Like, what if part of it is that like 5 of those swords, right? Again, in this like goddess of love card, 5 of them are like going through you, and then 5 of them are going elsewhere. What if like the 5 of them that's going through you are ones that like are your unmet expectations? And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't expect or be respected by other people, and like it can be really hard to just always feel like you're being let down by others, especially if it feels like no one ever gives as much as you do. Um, it's a really hard pattern to like be stuck in. Um, yeah, okay. So in the Library of Esoterica, Tarot book by Toshin, they talk about that this card is about wisdom, a turning point, and ascension. The Ten of Swords implies the possibility of enlightenment, but warns against feelings of self-pity and martyrdom. So again, right, I feel like this is exactly what I was talking about, right? Like we can be at this turning point where we can decide I don't actually have to give 100% of myself to other people, even when they're like people I love. Like again, maybe not like your kids. Like I really hope you're giving a lot of yourself to take care of people that you do care about. But again, like if you're giving 100% of yourself to anyone else, like there's nothing left for you. If those people disappoint us or aren't there for us, leave the house, right? Again, like if it is your kids, like they're gonna hopefully not leave your life, but they're gonna leave your space, right? I think sort of ideally they grow up and they do great on their own and la la la. Like we can't, what happens when we give so much of ourselves in that way is that then we end up with this feeling of like emptiness, right? When those people aren't there anymore. And that can be really, really hard, again, like I said, to kind of like get out of that pattern or break from that place, especially when it feels like I've given so much and people are not grateful, right? But this card is also telling us, right, that like we have to be careful that like we're not getting too much into the self-pity or feeling like a martyr. So in the Fearless Tarot book by Elia Adam, they talk about that the Ten of Swords is about facing the source of your anxiety. It says, help, the Ten of Swords looks scary. Are we all going to die? Absolutely not. The tarot has done it again, using potent symbolism to get us to wake up and pay attention to something very important. The man on the card is face down. All the swords are in his back. Whatever got him was chasing from behind. He was running away. The swords in his back symbolizing his irrational fears. They finally caught up to him. But look closer. In his last moment, he finally learned to surrender to his fears to spirit. This is symbolized by his right hand signaling a gesture of blessing, just like the Hierophant. Whereas the Hierophant represents rites of passage you chose to undergo, the Ten of Swords represents challenging rites of passage that you may not have chosen. The gesture of blessing on both cards indicates the transformation you are undergoing is meant to be. This rite of passage will serve to make your spirit stronger. Its sacred meaning has yet to be revealed. Is it time to stop avoiding the threshold you must cross? Surrender and have faith. What fears are you constantly trying to keep ahead of? Is your day filled with thoughts of terrible things that might happen? Do you try to just keep busy so you don't have to face the source of your unease? Ignoring fear is the same as running from it. It's still there, lurking about as usual. Often the thing we fear is the distraction from going deeper and listening to our inner self, our inner spirit. Spirit does not want suffering from you, but the only way to be free from needless suffering is to surrender. You aren't surrendering to fear in that way. You are surrendering the fear. Surrender to feeling the fear and then let it go. This Ten of Swords asks that you turn around and face the fears coming from behind. The spilled blood could represent that a sacrifice is needed. Where would your blood, sweat, and tears be better spent? Certainly not on more anxiety. When you show up in life as a victim, you will be doomed to be victimized. This card asks you to sacrifice and surrender the parts of your identity linked to victimhood. Although black clouds may have gathered, the light will return. And we do see this in some of the cards. We see the stars in the background, right? We see the sun, I believe, and the goddess of love card, right? It says, you can tell your fear, I'm not running from you today. Give yourself 5 minutes to feel all the scary things fear is trying to spook you with. Set a timer. When the alarm goes off, that's it. The fear doesn't get to have any more of your energy today. It's already taken 5 valuable minutes. Let go of the amorphous fears and enjoy something about being alive at this moment. Focus on the colors around you. Witness something beautiful. Fear is like the dog who chases the car. When the car stops, the dog doesn't know what to do. Fear thrives when you ruminate. Switch mental gears. Reach out to a trusted loved one. Speak your fear aloud. Sometimes speaking the fear to someone who supports you is the first step toward truly letting go. Take your fears out of the shadows and into the light. Sometimes bad things do happen and we have no control over them. However, you do get to choose if you face your challenges with courage or run away to become a victim. Running away from problems never works. Just look at the man on the card. If you can face your challenges, you can finally surrender them. Remember the gesture of blessing on the card. The darkest times are when spirit will help you, making itself known. In the Tarot and Astrology book by Colleen Kenner, they talk about that the Ten of Swords is associated with the Sun in Gemini. The third and last decan of Gemini is ruled by the Sun, the fiery orb of consciousness and enlightenment. The sun usually seems like a benevolent force, always shining, beaming, radiating light and life. But too much sun, however, can burn, especially when it reveals the truth. Gemini is a talkative sign. Unfortunately, talk often leads to backstabbing, gossip, slander, libel, and vicious personal attacks. Even when Gemini's intellectual energy is self-contained, it can pierce our confidence with pains of self-doubt. When the sun passes by, however, it clears away clouds and illuminates shadows, exposing the truth in the bright light of day. Sadly, sometimes the truth hurts, especially when the sun reveals the politics of personal destruction. If the Nine of Swords showed the woman from the lovers, the Ten of Swords shows the man. Both have been wounded by the trickster aspect of their ruling planet, and the young man's wounds aren't the kind that heal well. The Golden Dawn designers of this card called the Sun in Gemini the Lord of Ruin, because it reveals the unavoidable truth of an untenable situation. While the card looks cruel, it also represents full consciousness and release. Nothing is hidden anymore. The Sun in Gemini delivers a coup de grace, a final freeing blow. The suffering ends. The soul is liberated by complete and total enlightenment. The mind is free to roam, unburdened by physical form and unhindered by gravity. In a tarot reading, the Ten of Swords often represents overkill, death and rebirth, and the cycle of endings and beginnings. And finally, in the Tarot for Change book by Jessica Dorr, she speaks about that letting go doesn't happen on demand, right? That idea of surrender. That's because willpower is not a medicine and it does not heal wounds. If you broke your leg as a child and never received proper medical care, it would be no surprise if you have trouble walking as an adult. And yet with psychological wounds, the go-to method is so often to will them away and then proceed to find increasingly creative and elaborate ways of avoiding, blaming, and beating ourselves up for the ways in which our painful early experiences have hindered our ability to live well. This practice of taking inventory is one of many possible steps, first steps toward treating wounds that never received proper care. The swords and tarot symbolize the ability to narrate and intellectualize, and thus teach us about the ways in which we can use this capacity to evolve. If you've ever grown hot with rage or heavy with despair simply by thinking about something painful, whether past, present, or future, you already know the immense power of the thinking verbal mind. Thoughts are so powerful they can stimulate intense emotional states that permeate our entire experience. The Ten of Swords, with its image of a person laid out beneath the crushing weight of many swords, is a good illustration of what this can look like when whether the thoughts are true, half true, or flat out wrong. I suspect this is why the practice of taking inventory can be so powerful for some. It's cathartic, a way to summon the hot stuff that can rage uncontained if we don't make a proper space for it, give it a ring or a hearth to blaze safely inside. Keep in mind that the sword is the symbol of discernment, Judgment is always needed when deliberately summoning fire. Do not go alone beyond what you're equipped to cope with on your own. Tell someone you trust where you're going. Line up supports to be safe. Often, where we get into trouble is when a thought stimulates an intense feeling, and then in order to avoid the feeling, we turn to maladaptive coping strategy. This behavior, a reaction to an emotion triggered by a thought, generates more pain for us. Meanwhile, we never pause to ask whether the original thought was actually true or useful. Sometimes when you feel really bad, you can trace the feelings back to a thought or set of thoughts. I'm a failure, no one likes me, I'll be alone forever. Absolute statements and the Ten of Swords just screams absolutes are always suspect and therefore a great place to start. The practice of taking inventory, on the other hand, is one way to use the power to stimulate latent emotions on purpose and for healing. By calling up memories with discernment, always, and full permission to back off the moment if it gets to feel like too much, we summon up unresolved feelings that are associated with them in a way that can be safe and empowered. We let ourselves feel the weight of them on and in the body. In a culture obsessed with moving on, it's wild how rare an opportunity it is to really dwell down deep at the bottom of a loss. This card is often read as one of an absolute ending, and I think that that's a nod to the potential in this practice for really letting go to be possible. And it is far from the only way, just one way of many to consider. All right, let's see what the cards have to say. Dive in, give it a quick shuffle. And see what they have to say on this subject. I'm pulling cards from the Citadel, a Fantasy Oracle by Fen Inkwright. And yeah, I'm going to be thinking about, right, how do we let go of those, right, anxieties that can haunt us? How do we not let our thoughts overwhelm us, especially when we're having a hard time? How do we honor the feelings that do come up and not just push them away? How do we feel deeply and also take care of ourselves? One more shuffle. All right. Okay, I pulled the guide in reverse, inheritance and correction. I pulled this one recently. Interesting. I can't remember if I pulled it in reverse though at that time. Okay, the guide. So I'm just going to read the reversal one. It says, after a long struggle to put things right, not helped by others, you have found confidence in your ability to overcome whatever's next. Take a moment to congratulate yourself on your perseverance and make room in your life for the next challenge. So a very inspiring thing, right? Recognizing the struggle. Other people were not very helpful. They maybe made it worse, right? We're finding our confidence again and our abilities to overcome whatever does come up for us. We're congratulating ourselves on continuing to do the work, and we're making room in our life for the next challenge, right? While believing in our ability to deal with it. All right, so links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.